Please work. Yeah. Okay, we're live. Welcome to VIR. Thanks for dialing in.
All right, we're going to kick this off with you, Connie. Matt Drake from Richmond, Virginia. Want to know, will NASCAR, IndyCar, V8 Supercar, W Series, and other Premier Series come to VIR? Have the top spin taken place? Help the track grow?
Tinker Abs, I'm going to have to ask you to be over here so I look at you and the screen at the same time.
Okay.
So she's asking my questions. She should be in front of the camera because she's so darn cute, so is me. But the answer is yes. Of course, VR always wants to grow. We started out, Harvey's vision was to be a really beautiful club track that his family would want to join in. And very soon we realized that it's too big of an important historic track to not go pro racing. So yes, we would love to have NASCAR here. We would love to have IndyCar here. We have had MotoGP visit, World Superbike. Yeah, our first step is always to have a site tour. So we've invited any of the series that we think would be appropriate to come out and visit, see the property, see what modifications they would want us to have, and whether that's in keeping with our business model. So weigh in with your sanctioning body. If you'd like to see them here at VIR, let them know because they love to hear from the fans.
Awesome. Okay. Eric Bush from Beckley, West Virginia asks, will fans be allowed to attend the SRO race in July? When fans come back to the track, is there any way to volunteer for races if no spectators are allowed?
Fans will not be allowed to come to the race in July, the SRO race, unfortunately. That will be, held without the spectators, and we normally do not have volunteers here. We pay all of our staff. On a rare occasion, we will have volunteers help run food and tend to the hospitality tents, but SRO does not include that into their events, so I don't see there being an opportunity for volunteers at that event.
All right. Keith Isley from Greensboro, North Carolina asked, if Connie could have any driver / series or car in the world race at VIR, who or what would it be?
Oh, a Le Mans winning GT40. That is my most favorite car in the world. And when Ford did their big send-off here last fall, a Le Mans competitor, GT40, was here, and I had goosebumps all day long.
That's awesome. Okay. Dave Bridge from Mooresville, North Carolina says, is there any plan to provide new or refurbish the existing bleacher seating at NASCAR Bend, the bridge and climbing S's, Oak Tree, and roller coaster?
You have been to VIR because you know where all of our dilapidated bleachers are. We would love to have bigger, better, newer bleachers, but they're very expensive. We're always on the outlook for good quality used bleachers. If you ever have a line on any of them, please let us know. You can email to myself or Kerrigan. We're both on the website, cnyhome@virnow.com. So the bleachers at NASCAR Bend are our newest bleachers, and we were able to get those from Collegiate School in Richmond when they did an expansion. So those are pretty good, but those other ones are kind of sad.
Okay. Ryan Stoltz, VIR Kids Club member. Your hair is always blue and yellow during IMSA. I've always wanted to ask you, but have never had a chance.
Well, you need to make a chance this year. So my hair is actually blue and yellow and green because Michelin is our sponsor, and they're blue and yellow, and green and yellow is VIR's colors. So I do all three together. And sometimes I do it just for fun too, but it usually gets kicked off with IMSA.
Okay. Christian Rose, VIR Kids Club member. What is the fastest car you've driven around VIR, and did it have a big engine?
Well, I raced vintage cars for years, and they're not especially fast. My fastest one was probably my Aller J2X, 1953. It did have a very big Cadillac V8 engine, but it also had drum brakes and bicycle tires, so it was hard to pedal fast. I probably got that car up to maybe 140, 145. But I did do the opening lap with the new pavement in a friend's RS7. And we got that up to about 180 and got light going into 14 at the top of roller coaster and nearly scared the bejesus out of me. And a few other things too.
Cindy Rose, VIR Kids Club member, asked, how long did it take to rebuild VIR and what was the hardest part about it?
We opened 22 months from the time we started. I started working with Harvey in May 1998 and we opened March 17, 2000. And I think the hardest part of getting open was building the paddock because it's quite large. It had 2 sinkholes in the middle of the paddock and we had to grade it down about 7 feet to 11 feet to get it level and to access pit lanes. So that was quite the challenge.
Okay, what's your interest in racing? Was your interest in racing always there?
Actually not. I'd never been to a racetrack in my life before coming to VIR to see it with Harvey. And then he took me to Lime Rock Park for the Fall Festival. He was also a vintage racer, which is how I got started because I wanted to beat him, which I finally did. And then we went to Watkins Glen and to the Vintage Grand Prix. And we got up to the Glen and I said, okay, I get it. I love racing now. I always was a car guy. I went to tons of car shows in my early married life, 20s through my 40s. And then, of course, we have all the cars coming here now. But racers are just the coolest people on the planet. And I don't understand why people just would not want to be in a paddock. Because the race paddock and Sailboat Harbor, to me, are the best places on the planet to be.
Awesome. How did you know VIR's restoration was the passion project for you?
Well, every day just gets better. I mean, every day is busier. I never really know what else is going to happen. This is my first time to ever do anything on Facebook, so this is another new day in the history of Connie. But it's just, people say if they cut me, I'd bleed VIR green, and I do believe I would. And I get emotional when I talk about it, so I have to kind of take a deep breath. But we have assembled the best staff in motorsport. Mike Simon has just recently joined us as head of director of EMS. We have several other new directors. Tinker Apps, who's here asking me the questions, is so talented as our creative manager. And I love coming to work every day because I love the people I work with. And back sort of to the racing question, my favorite thing about VIR is that no one has to come here. People only come here because they choose to. And when you're surrounded by people who want to be with you, that's a beautiful thing.
It really is. Around how many miles do you think you've walked around VIR over the years, if you had to estimate?
Well, okay. Let's do some conservative math. I try to do at least 5 miles a day. And if I do that, probably on average 3 days a week, that would be 15 miles. And I probably do that maybe 40 weeks a year. So that would be, 600?
Close to that.
I'm losing my math because I'm on Facebook Live. So 15 miles a day.
Yeah.
Here, let me get my calculator. I'll know for sure that I'm doing it correctly. If it would open. Okay. So 5 miles a day, 3 days a week, 40 weeks a year is 600. I was right. And I've been here 20 years. So that would be 12,000 miles on a conservative basis. I should look better. That's a lot of miles.
What is your favorite meal from Oak Tree Tavern and why?
Well, we have a new menu that we only unveiled for a few weeks before we got shut down with the COVID-19. And I had the salmon BLT on focaccia, and it was delicious.
Oh my gosh.
That's all I've gotten to have yet, and I can't wait to have it again.
That sounds delicious.
Eat my way through the menu and keep walking.
What have been your favorite moments of VIR history before reopening and after reopening?
Before reopening and after reopening. So I'm going to take before reopening as construction. So one of my favorite times of the reopening was We were out in golf carts, Harvey, myself, and Peter Krause, who is a driving instructor with the shop here at VIR. And we're riding golf carts around the infield because Harvey had what I thought was a very brilliant idea to bifurcate the historic pole course into north and south. So we just kept riding around trying to find the rhythm, the camber of the turns, decreasing, increasing radius, just making interesting track. And finally, a path emerged, much like a sidewalk path will emerge in a university. And that's how we paved the north and the south course, is just by riding golf carts until a really good, consistent path emerged. So we're now track designers. So that was just a ton of fun. And after VIR opened, probably when I passed Harvey the first time in Oak Tree, and then he pointed me by, and I was so angry. So I came into the paddock, and I was stomping my little feet, and Harvey's laughing at me, and I'm like, "How could you point me by?" He's like, "Mechanical failure." So I just tried extra hard, and I passed him on a fairly regular basis after that, but never every time. It was fun.
What's the most challenging part of owning a racetrack?
The people. So, I mean, it takes all kinds to make a world, and I think they've all been here. So building it is not that complex. Just get yourself a good golf cart, a lot of gas. But operating it is more than an ocean. I mean, every group has a different need. Staff is very diverse. I mean, we're one of the few tracks with hotels, restaurants, group and corporate activities, off-road trails, government, military training, and each one of those groups has requirements, and we want to treat them all just the best we possibly can, and also always to be consistent so that they know what they can expect, and we deliver at least that when they're here. So that's a pretty tall order, but we love the challenge, and so far so good.
Awesome. What is the most memorable story you have heard from the old VIR days?
From the old VIR days. Well, my favorite one is just a little short one, and I just heard it a couple years ago, is that we think Spencer Pompelli was conceived on Spectator Hill. But when we were under construction, I would do a lot of tours for local groups that wanted to come out and see what we had in mind. And many of them would remember Spectator Hill. So I took a garden club up there one time, and I said, "Well, how many of you have been to Spectator Hill?" And the little lady's like, I said, "Now, how many of you begot your children on Spectator Hill?" And so they just would tell you the craziest things. And then one day, it was during the Spectator event, I think it was IMSA, this middle-aged man came up to me and he said, "Hey, have you ever heard the story about the Volkswagen that got rolled down Spectator Hill?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I have." And he goes, "That was me. That was my dad's car. I got in a lot of trouble." But if Spectator Hill could talk, we'd all hear a lot of great stories. Unfortunately, when you go up there, the viewing isn't nearly as good as around the rest of the track now that we've opened up so many spectator areas. But when we started, there was a big corrugated piece of metal, and it said men and women. And when you went behind it, there was nothing there. That was their bathroom.
Wow. When did you start dyeing your hair all sorts of the cool colors, and what made you start doing that?
Well, a couple of reasons. I just got tired of having white hair. So I like to refer to it as silver. So the first color I dyed it was actually silver. It was kind of a bluish silver. And then I got the idea to do the blue, green, and yellow for Michelin with the IMSA races. So I've stuck with that. And then if I'm able to take a fun wintertime sailing vacation, I usually do teal and purple and blue, royal blue. And the young people in the islands really seem to like that one. So I did that for Russia this year. My son and I went there for Christmas, and not one person made a comment on it till I got back to New York. But it's just fun.
That's really cool. Have there been talks about adding more lodging at the track? If so, do you know when you could see it?
There has not been talk of more lodging. We have talked about man caves. Most people know what the garage mahal or man cave is. It would just, be an open floor plan that the buyer could add lodging if they wanted. The walls would be stubbed to add a second floor or a loft. And it's just up to their imagination what they want that to be. If they would like to put it in the rental pool and it meets our standards, we would take it into the rental pool. If it had a full second floor, if it just had a loft, I'd hate to have a guest that might drink a little bit too much or have an incident with whoever owned the Ferrari underneath them, and God only knows what might go from the second floor to the first floor, so we don't want to do that. So Danville recently has voted to work with Caesars on a casino. So Danville was one of 5 locations in the Commonwealth of Virginia approved to have a casino should the local population put forth a referendum and vote for it. That will happen this fall. The first step was to narrow down the field of applicants to the preferred applicant, which is Caesars. They're talking about building a 500-room conference casino resort in Danville in an old mill property called Schoolfield to renovate that and expand it. So I think that would more than take care of the additional lodging and good quality lodging that we would need here in the area.
Awesome. What is your fastest lap time around VIR?
Let's see, 2:07. Wow. So it's not that great. I'll never see the sub 2-minute club, but that was in my Elba Mark 7. And then Elliot Forbes Robinson was driving a different one, and I think he did like a 1:57. I was so excited about mine until I read his, but he's pro.
Wow. With 2020 being the 20th anniversary of reopening, what do you see in VIR's future in the next 20 years?
Wow, that's a long time to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But in 20 years, I'd like to attract a couple of those races from the first question. I think that would round out our schedule very nicely. I'd also like to see those nice bleachers in the second question and continue to add, the man caves and really just refine our business and bring in, some more groups. I'd love to do more in the off-road arena because we've got 2 obstacle courses, we've got rally stages, we've got forest trails. We've got a lot of off-road capacity that we have not utilized anywhere near its extent. So I'd like to see that happen more. Certainly become more of a household name. I mean, we've grown a lot in just 20 years, but I think the heavy lifting's been done because the operation is running very well. We built a very good team. We have really good, policies and procedures and teamwork in place. And I think that's the hardest part of any business is getting that foundation set to grow. And we started our growth trajectory a couple of years ago before COVID came and set us back a little like everybody else, but we'll be out of this okay.
Awesome. What has been your most difficult time as an owner of a racetrack?
My most difficult time as an owner of a racetrack. Oh gosh, I haven't had a real difficult time lately, but in the early days, I mean, everybody had a suggestion and we like suggestions, but I was getting strapped into my Allard to go racing and this man knocked me on the helmet and told me that we were out of toilet paper in the 3rd stall in the North Paddock bathroom. And I said, okay, thank you. And so you really need to have people on a schedule. I could help you develop that of when people should go and check the bathrooms and what they should have and everything. I'm trying to get out on the starting grid. But, that kind of thing would happen a lot. And now, because we've been around for 20 years and we've developed, pretty deep relationships, you can have some really meaningful discussions that can really help make us better. So if we get the same compliment over and over, we know that's right. If we get constructive criticism, we try to address it. So don't be shy, just don't knock on my helmet.
Okay. What are you most proud of as the owner of VIR?
Staff. That's easy. We've built a great staff, and I've commented on that several times today. I'm also very, very proud at how happy our people are. I mean, I think that we have a really good following. I think we have a very strong brand. People feel at home here. A lot of that was evidenced with the Dinner with Racers Amazon Prime show last year and our podcast. Just the comments were very heartwarming to me.
That's great. Can you tell us about the Road Racing Industry Council?
Sure. I'm currently president. We started this probably about 14 years ago, and George Brugenthes kicked that off. George passed the baton then to Jill Campbell, who then passed it on to me. And it is a organization of about 14 tracks, and they're the big road racing spectator event sanctioned tracks where we're the promoter of the event. So we get together twice a year. We always get together in Daytona, and we usually get together in Las Vegas with the SEMA show. Um, that will probably change this year because of the virus, but that twice a year. The end of the year wrap up is just amazing. We all go around the table and talk about our challenges and successes for the year. And after all this time with most of the same people in the room most of the time, there has been a great deal of trust developed in the conversation, and we all help to make each other better and develop best practices for road racing. And plus, that's a pretty fun room to be in because if you've met most of the track presidents, I'm very honored to be in their company. And it actually all started because we had, VIR had gotten an early pro event, and we did not negotiate our sanctioning fee as we should have, and got called on the map by some of the other track operators, rightfully so. And my response to that was, well, I could obviously use some mentoring. Will you step up to the job? And they said yes. And we started forming smaller groups, which then grew into the Road Racing Industry Council with bylaws, and Roman Lipson is our attorney in Richmond. And so we handle it very professionally, but somewhat informally, as we all have developed the trust in the room.
That's great. I've heard you love to sail. You don't seem to be the type that would sit on the promenade deck and drink wine. So how active are you at sea? Can you tell us your favorite sailing experience?
I am as active as I can be. I don't like to sit still. This is probably a record for me right now. But I was introduced to sailing by a now ex-boyfriend, Martin Van Dorser. He's Dutch, and he had a custom-built Atlantic lift keel cutter sailboat in Holland, and we went over to have that experience. And I just fell in love with it the very first time out. And so I've been to sailing school. I will never consider myself a captain. I hope to be very, very good crew, and I hope to be able to be knowledgeable enough if we ever get into, real trouble. Hopefully my captain will always be sound of mind and body as we get into trouble. But my most memorable sailing experience was actually with Martine, and we were sailing in Finland and Sweden, and it's rocky there. It's not a sandy blue bottom like in the Bahamas or here. And it was near hurricane force winds, and we were going through a very narrow cut that was rocks. And Martine insisted that I have the helm because I had taken the boat through the last time we had been through that passage. And we had about, maybe 9 square feet of sail up because it was blowing that hard. And I was really nervous, but we got through, and I didn't hit anything. And I was proud of that.
Wow. What's the most exciting finish you've seen at VIR?
Oh my goodness, that's an unfair question. There's so many. I mean, so many of the AMA and Moto America finishes have been, inches. Photo finishes. And some of the, big exciting crashes. I think probably my most exciting finish was when I came in first. Once upon a time, many, many years ago. No, if we get a good, fast, fun race, they're all wonderful. And, we just are blessed to have such an exciting track. That's the best thing Harvey and I did, was not mess with it. We repaved the center line, and we just widened it as time has gone on and added more safety features. But it's the original historic full course. And as Harvey would always say, you can't buy history.
What's the most challenging part of being a female track owner?
Oh gosh, I get asked that a lot. I don't have an answer for that, and I probably should develop one. I mean, kind of my most recent line on that is, hey, the other track owners have Audis, I've got an Innie, big deal. That's about it for me. So I haven't noticed any particular challenges of being female. Our staff is pretty, diverse across the board, and we all work well together, and nobody's given me a hard time for being female yet. So hopefully that will continue.
All right, Connie, we've got some questions coming in on Facebook for you. We got one fan here. He would like to know, is there a chance for more motorcycle races in 2021? A few of them got canceled or pushed off the schedule for this year, so will we see any more in 2021?
Yeah. Well, I hope that Moto America is back in force in 2021. I think CCS is most likely going to be back. I haven't heard anything otherwise, but those have been the only race events that we've had in years. So Moto America has been growing over the years. I think that last year their competition was quite good, and those guys really care about their series and are, I think working hard to make it sustainable and grow.
All right. One fan remembers there used to be a time where you could ride bicycles on the track. Do you see a day for that? We could possibly do that in the future. A lot of people seem to enjoy it, and they hope to see it back.
I would love to have that back. Road America does a great thing. It's got a good tagline, 4 miles of fitness. And we were trying to get a regular schedule of the first Tuesday of the month. And just the first year that we tried to do that, we just had horrible weather, and it just never really caught hold. So we do allow people here at the track, whether they're participants or guests, to ride their bike or walk on the track before it goes hot in the morning and in the evening after it goes cold. But yes, I'd love to have more planned events for fitness, because people really do enjoy it. And a lot of my 12,000 miles has been on the racetrack.
Many of us watched the iRacing event last week, and we were just wondering when we could possibly see a restart for iRacing to be updated to what it is today.
I wish I knew. We're trying to get them to come out and do that. We were one of the very first tracks. I think it was an oval, I can't recall where, and Lime Rock, and then us. And I've actually got a picture over my desk of the scan of Oak Tree, and it's bright purple when it's digitized back in the day. But we were very, very proud to be an early choice of iRacing. Would love to have them come back and rescan the track as it is today. So let them know.
All right, one more question here. Connie, have you ever thought about writing your own version of the VIA art history book?
Heck no. Bill King worked on that so hard, and it was a labor of love. I mean, that was his passion project, like this has been mine. He did such a great job, and covered so many aspects of the first track. I know that Harvey is very, very interested in doing a more elaborate version of our resurrection of the track and our time together up until 2012. And his videographer has been out here a couple times. We've had some tours and interviews with different folks. And so I think that is going to be forthcoming here in just a few months. Video version.
Okay. I've noticed the last couple of times I was out at the track that some area had been cleared near turn 1 and 2. Do you expect on having any spectating seating in that area in the near future?
We'd love to get camping and spectator seating in that area. I mean, it's amazing when you're in there that close to the action. We'd, of course, have to put up more fencing, the guardrails in place pretty much throughout there. It was very wet, so clearing out all those trees has allowed it to start drying up. And if we can just get it into proper condition, that'd be our next spectator area to open up. I'd love to do that, and also down the long straight, because you get up by the water tower and you just see forever. It's great.
All right, here's the last question for you, Connie. When you repaved the track in 2000, did you find anything from the original surface or anything below the surface?
The original surface was there. It wasn't completely intact. If you've seen the 1998 video, you'll see that trees were growing out of the sides and the asphalt was all alligatored up. But we thought that originally that we would mill up that track to use a subbase, and we started over at turn 10, going down the dip up to 11 to Oak Tree. and only got a few yards and realized that if we milled that up, we were going to lose the undersurface of the track. And so we instead halted the horses and repaved what was there, added more base, and then repaved over it. So we never got under it. We never found anything. And most of the track, everything that was there is still there under the track. And it was just only 26 feet wide on a good day. So we had to widen it substantially, and then we did so again. So, all right. Well, thank you all. That was fun. Hope you enjoyed it. I did. Thank you, Mitchell and Tinker Apps, for putting this together for us. And we'll do it again soon. Come have coffee with Connie at IMSA. Bye-bye.
It did really well. People were watching.
Oh, good.
I think